What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao with the news this Monday afternoon. Airline workers here in Taiwan are calling on the Transportation Ministry to protect workers' rights and safety. Our reporter Tiffany Wong went to hear their demands.
Airline workers from one of Taiwan's 2 national carriers are gathered here in front of Taiwan's Transport Ministry to air their grievances ahead of a planned strike vote later this week. They're worried about safety and think EVA Airlines has cut corners to keep down costs, despite increased profits. Hundreds of Taiwanese pilots quit this past year, and there are allegations that foreigners were brought in to take their place using illegal intermediaries, which they're calling on the Transport Ministry to investigate.
我们的这些公安意外一直持续的在发生，因为大家为了赶时间，为了急救章而发生非常多的公安意外，从地安到空安也是，而飞行品质也越来越差。
Ahead of a busy holiday season, this could affect customers traveling for the Lunar New Year and overseas Taiwanese returning home to vote in January's elections. Devin Tsai and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's disability rights activists are demanding better accessibility. Demonstrating outside the cabinet building, they said the country needs barrier-free entrances in public spaces and sidewalks for people who use wheelchairs. The cabinet said it would look into whether Taiwan needs a new law for this. There are some 1.2 million people with disabilities in Taiwan, most of them aged 65 or over. Taiwan's presidential hopefuls are campaigning non-stop. Though they haven't given up on undecided voters, they've been turning lately to their bases. John Van Trieste has this election update.
Supporters bundled up against the cold come out to hear presidential candidate Lais speak. Though much of Taiwan's been shivering, the country's election campaign is hotter than ever. The atmosphere here in the southern city of Tainan is warm too. Lai used to be Tainan's mayor, and the city's been a reliable base for his Democratic Progressive Party. But all this only matters if people go to the polls. That's why Lai's here on this chilly day, to rally the base, this time with a promise on education. He wants to make high school and vocational school free starting next year. And there's more.
年收入无到70万块的，囡仔无论读公立读私立，政府一年补助2万块，好啊好。
With just 26 days until the election, no one can afford to waste time. And Lai's not the only one trying to whip up the base. At this event in Taichung, Kuomintang candidate Ho Yo-i is focused on the most divisive issue in Taiwanese politics, China. China claims Taiwan and continues to threaten an invasion. Ho's Kuomintang wants friendlier ties and greater exchanges, including in trade. But that's not something everyone can get behind. In 2014, students worried about Taiwan's sovereignty occupied the legislature to block one pact the party wanted to push through. The pact was put on ice. But Ho says nearly a decade on, it's time to bring it back.
但是你不要看到旁边还有一个大篮子哦，你们爱客家人啊，我们对大陆两岸的经济贸易无可能断嘛。
And the Taiwan People's Party's Ko Wen-je has repeated the mantra that's driven his campaign, Taiwan's most significant third-party challenge in decades. He sees Taiwan's highly polarized bipartisan system as a problem that only he can do away with. It's a message that's won him his own base among the politically disillusioned.
台湾必须是由一个清廉、勤政、爱民、爱乡土的政府来领导，而不是一个整天在制造社会的分裂、制造仇恨，然后大撒币喊口号，但是并没有实际解决台湾问题的政府来领导。
Two ways or three, though, Taiwan's electoral landscape is deeply split. The lines are drawn. And now, with just weeks left, candidates' focus is on building enough momentum in the base to push them across the finish line. Ryan Wu and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
For more on what's at stake in January's election, here's Leslie Liao.
Taiwan has a decision to make. Who will be the country's next leader? Incumbent President Tsai Ing-wen has reached her 2-term limit, and on January 13th, voters will head to the polls and select a new commander-in-chief. There are 3 contenders for Taiwan's highest office. Tsai's deputy, Lai is the candidate for the ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP. New Taipei Mayor Hou Youyi is running for Taiwan's largest opposition party, the Kuomintang, or KMT. And former Taipei Mayor Ke Wen-je leads the ticket for the Taiwan People's Party, the party he himself founded. The DPP has held the presidency since 2016. The KMT has said since the beginning their goal is to take down the ruling party. The TPP says they want to offer voters a third option to break Taiwan's two-party system.
目前整个台湾的政治非蓝即绿，这个还是要打破不然的话，它永远在两极对抗的泥淖。
Taiwan faces a number of pressing domestic issues, including labor and electricity shortages, stagnant wages, high house prices, and a declining birth rate. Each campaign has offered their suggestions for solving these problems.
最重要的是要供电无疑，有序转型。
然后这个减税，你知道哈，一胎减12万哦，可以到12岁。
因为蔡总统都12万户嘛，所以我们未来的8年13万户应该是不会有问题。
But just as important as these domestic issues is one crucial diplomatic matter. Relations with China dominates the country's foreign affairs. Beijing sees Taiwan as Chinese territory and has not ruled out using force to bring it under its control. So the possibility of war looms over the country. When Tsai Ing-wen took power in 2016, she vowed to maintain the cross-strait status quo and held out an offer of dialogue with China on an equal basis. This was rejected by Beijing, which sees the DPP as pursuing formal independence for Taiwan.
民进党推出这样一组危险的独配，只会毒害台湾同胞利益扶持，毒害台海和平稳定，毒害台湾前途命运。
The KMT, which holds regular exchanges with the Chinese Communist Party, says it is the party that can de-escalate tensions and keep Taiwan safe.
加强两岸交流，降低两岸冲突，让台湾远离战争。
Ke also says his goal is to open dialogue with China and foster peace.
在越来越紧张的中美与两岸关系之间，我们都同意维持现状、追求和平是美中台之间的最大公约数。
For Lai's part, he says he will follow the path laid down by President Tsai.
My support for cross-strait status quo will be unwavering.
It's not just the presidency at stake on January 13th, but also the legislature. 113 legislative seats are up for grabs. There's no guarantee that the party that wins the presidency will also control the legislative branch. As in any democracy, it will be up to Taiwan's voters to decide how they want the country to move forward. Come January, they'll decide who they think is the best fit to steer the nation in what looks like a turbulent period ahead. Patrick Sun and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
The trial of Hong Kong media tycoon Jimmy Lai has begun. Lai faces life in prison under the city's national security law. Authorities say he colluded with foreign forces during Hong Kong's 2019 pro-democracy protests. His arrest the next year caused an uproar as Beijing crushed freedom of speech in the former British territory. His trial is being closely watched as a test of Hong Kong's judicial independence. South Korea's military says North Korea has launched a long-range missile. It was set off near Pyongyang and landed in the sea to the east of the country. This is Pyongyang's second missile launch within a day after a short-range missile was fired on Sunday. Both launches come after North Korea condemned the United States and South Korea for raising tensions with military exercises. Japan and ASEAN have agreed to step up their defense and tech cooperation. The deal comes at a special summit in Tokyo, marking 50 years of friendship between Japan and the Southeast Asian bloc. Japanese Prime Minister Kishida Fumio and Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. also agreed to work out a plan that would allow their militaries to deploy troops on each other's soil. That's as regional tensions with China grow. with Philippine and Chinese ships clashing over competing claims in the South China Sea. To learn more about how Southeast Asian countries contribute to wider Asian geopolitics, our reporter Joyce Dunn spoke with Greg Raymond, Senior Lecturer of Asia-Pacific Affairs at Australian National University.
Japan's just reaffirmed and boosted its ties with ASEAN. Can you explain why the Southeast Asian bloc is important for regional geopolitics?
ASEAN is a significant market, and it's significant in totality. It's almost a GDP of $3 trillion. So when you look at it collectively, it's quite a significant economic part of the Indo-Pacific region. Amongst the multilateral structures in the region, it's the ASEAN-centered structures which are the most inclusive. And that's quite important because they provide a forum in which the great powers can conduct business. And the US and China wouldn't be happy with either one of them being the primary host of significant international meetings. So ASEAN provides a kind of middle ground.
As you've mentioned, ASEAN serves as this sort of moderator role, and a lot of Southeast Asian countries do have strong links with China. Can you explain how some of them navigate towing that line?
Here we have to draw a clear distinction between the ASEAN position, which is the collective position of the whole 10 states, versus the individual member positions, and there's quite a bit of distance between them. Vietnam and Philippines obviously have significant claims and significant disputes with China, whereas Thailand doesn't, and neither does Cambodia, and Cambodia is extremely dependent on China. All countries are looking to benefit economically from China, whether or not it's a number one trading partner or not. The best that ASEAN can hope for is that countries will try to balance their national interest with a regional interest.
That was Joyce Dunn speaking with Greg Raymond, a Southeast Asian politics and defense expert at Australian National University. A record 28,000 runners took part in the Taipei Marathon, but 5 of them ended up in the hospital. A 42-year-old man suffered a stroke. 3 other men went into cardiac arrest, and a woman was sent to the hospital after falling and hurting herself. The 42-kilometer race around the capital took place as temperatures plummeted across Taiwan. Doctors say the incidents may have been caused by the colder weather. An oil leak is not to blame for a massive spill that's been polluting the country's entire east coast since early December. Government officials used satellite images, drones, and simulations to try and find the source of the oil. While they haven't found the exact cause, they believe the waste oil could be from oil tanker cabins being washed at sea. Volunteers have been facing an uphill battle trying to clean up the thick oil that's coated shorelines. A new Taipei landmark has lost its claim to fame. Elephant Trunk Rock off the northeast coast was a tourist hotspot, but its trunk broke off and fell into the sea. Local officials say the collapse was probably because of long-term erosion and strong wind and waves over the weekend. They're urging tourists to stay away for their own safety. Taiwanese badminton ace Tzu-ying has taken gold at the Badminton World Tour Finals in Hangzhou, China. She took the top spot after besting Spain's Carolina Marin in the women's singles. It's Dai's 4th career gold at that event. She's now ranked 4th in the world, ahead of the 2024 Paris Summer Olympics. Thanks for tuning in to What's Up Taiwan. If you want more of our reports, you can find them on the TaiwanPlus website and on our app. Before we go, check out these paradise shell ducks strutting around New Zealand's South Island. This species can only be found in that country. I'm Eric Gao, and I'll see you later on TaiwanPlus News.
For more news from Taiwan and the world, follow TaiwanPlus on social media.